They said he would ruin me, that men like Julian Cross don't love. They consume. I listened. You ever choose the wrong man on purpose? Not because you didn't know better, but because you did? I did. That's how this started. The moment I saw him again, the pact started to rot. We weren't supposed to be in the same room. That was the rule. The only one that mattered. We could attend the same events. We could smile at the same donors. We could stand beneath the same chandeliers and pretend we didn't feel the weight of old money and older blood pressing in from every corner. But we were never supposed to touch a cross. And Julian Cross wasn't just a cross. He was the one who made the rule necessary in the first place. The gala was already loud when we arrived. Not noisy, never that, but full. Packed with power, men in tailored suits who didn't look like criminals but owned prisons anyway. Women dripping in diamonds who knew exactly which family each stone had passed through before landing on their necks. Money like this didn't circulate. It concentrated. I stood between Ava and Morgan, champagne flute cold against my palm, posture perfect, smile practiced. We looked like we belonged here. That was the point. We always did. 7 women. 1 circle. 1 pact. Ava leaned in, voice barely moving her lips. In and out. 1 hour. Morgan nodded. No wandering. I nodded too, even though my attention had already drifted. Not because I was careless. Because I felt it. That shift in the room. That subtle recalibration when something dangerous entered a space and everyone else instinctively made room for it. The conversations didn't stop. The music didn't change. But the energy tightened. And I knew, before I saw him, Julian Cross walked in like he owned the building. Not in the obvious way. Not with bravado or spectacle. He didn't scan the room. Didn't announce himself. Didn't acknowledge the men who straightened instinctively or the women who paused mid-sentence. He just walked. Tall. Controlled. Black suit, no tie, white shirt open at the throat like he didn't need armor where other men hid behind silk and stiffness. Dark hair combed back, face sharp in a way that suggested violence without promising it. He was calm. That was the worst part. Calm men in this world were either dead or untouchable. Julian Cross was very much alive. And when his eyes lifted, slow, deliberate, and locked onto mine, something in my chest went hollow. Not fear, recognition. I hadn't seen him in 3 years. Not since everything with Celine imploded and we swore, over too many drinks and too much grief, that we would never get this close to fire again. I told myself he wouldn't recognize me. I was wrong. His gaze didn't flicker, didn't question, didn't search. It landed. And stayed. Morgan felt it before she saw it. Her hand tightened around my wrist. No, she murmured. Ava turned sharply. Is that? Yes, Morgan said. It's him. I should have looked away. I didn't. Julian Cross tilted his head slightly. Not a greeting, not a challenge, a claim. I felt it all the way down my spine. He can't be here, Ava whispered. This is a city-sponsored event. I almost laughed. Julian Cross didn't attend events. Events happened around him. He's not supposed to be back, Morgan said. I heard he was still overseas. He took control 6 months ago, Ava said tightly. You don't do that from a distance. My throat was dry. Because suddenly, it all made sense. The rumors, the shifts, the quiet disappearances no one wanted to explain. Julian Cross wasn't just back. He was in charge. He started toward us. Not rushed, not aggressive, just inevitable. My pulse spiked. Morgan's fingers dug into my arm. Harper, she warned, don't. I'm not doing anything, I said, even as my body betrayed me by leaning forward a fraction. Julian stopped a foot away, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Dark, expensive, something that clung instead of announcing itself. Up close, he was worse. Older. Sharper. Eyes like they'd seen too much and found it insufficient. Harper Lane, he said. My name sounded different in his mouth, slower, heavier. I didn't think you still attended these, I replied, because silence felt like surrender. His mouth curved, not a smile. You always did like pretending you weren't curious. Morgan stepped between us. She's with us. Julian's eyes flicked to her. Cool, assessing. I know who she's with. Then back to me. And I know exactly who she isn't. Ava's voice was brittle. This isn't appropriate. Julian didn't look at her. Nothing I do ever is, he said calmly. And yet, here we are. I felt heat crawl up my neck. This was already too much. Too public. Too fast. You should go, Morgan said, before this becomes a problem. Julian's gaze never left mine. It already is, he said. Then, softly, just for me. You're staring like you already decided. My breath hitched. I hated that he knew. He stepped back first, gave us space. Power like his didn't need to crowd. I'll see you later, he said. Not a question, not a threat, a fact. Then he turned and walked away, leaving a vacuum behind him that the room rushed to fill. The noise came back. The conversations resumed. But something had already cracked. Ava grabbed my arm hard enough to hurt. What the hell was that? I didn't do anything. You didn't need to, Morgan snapped. You looked at him. I looked at a man who said my name. You know what he is, Ava said. You know what he did to Celine. My chest tightened. I know what everyone says he did. That's enough. Is it? I shot back. Because none of you were there. The silence that followed was sharp. Morgan's expression changed. Hurt. Then anger. We made a pact. I remember. Do you? She asked. Because the way he looked at you. Wasn't my fault? No, Ava said quietly. But what you do next will be. We left early. No photos. No lingering. I told them I had a headache. Told them I was calling car. They watched me go like they didn't trust my back. Maybe they were right not to. The city air was cold, sharp enough to sting. I stood on the curb, arms wrapped around myself, trying to slow my breathing. I should have gone home. Instead, I waited. I didn't know why. I just knew he wouldn't leave without finding me again. He didn't make me wait long. A black car pulled up soundlessly. Not flashy, just expensive enough to be invisible. The back door opened. Julian didn't get out. He didn't have to. You shouldn't be alone, he said from the shadows. I stayed where I was. You shouldn't talk to me. And yet, he said, here you are. I laughed, short and sharp. You really enjoy doing this in public, don't you? Making a scene. I enjoy watching people lie to themselves, he replied. You're particularly bad at it. I clenched my jaw. What do you want? His eyes searched my face. Not my body. My face. To see if you'd still choose me, he said. My stomach flipped. I didn't choose anything. Not yet. The door remained open. An invitation. A challenge. You get in this car, he continued calmly, and your friends will never forgive you. I swallowed. And if I don't, then you'll spend the rest of the night wondering what would have happened if you had. Damn him. Damn his certainty. Damn the way my body responded before my brain could catch up. I'm not scared of you, I said. His gaze sharpened. That's the part that should terrify you. I didn't get in the car. Not tonight, but as it pulled away and disappeared into traffic, I knew something worse than temptation had already taken hold. Because the pact didn't feel broken yet. It felt fragile. And Julian Cross had just pressed his thumb into the crack. It didn't take long for me to decide. I just stopped pretending I hadn't already. The car I called never showed. Instead, my phone buzzed once as I walked, the city sharp and cold around me. Unknown number. You're still 2 blocks from where you said you'd be. I stopped walking. Didn't look around. Didn't need to. My pulse kicked hard against my ribs. Me. You shouldn't be watching me. 3 dots appeared immediately. I'm not watching. I'm waiting. I swallowed. The night felt too open suddenly. Too exposed. Every shadow a reminder of who he was, and what he controlled. Another message came through. Penthouse. 15 minutes. If you don't come, I won't ask again. There was no pleas. No seduction. Just certainty. I stood there for a full 10 seconds. Then I turned and flagged down the first black car I saw. The building wasn't marked. Of course it wasn't. No sign. No doorman. Just a quiet stretch of street where traffic slowed without anyone knowing why. Cameras disguised as architectural details. Security so subtle, it felt polite. The driver didn't ask my name. He just nodded once and opened the door. The elevator ride was silent. Smooth. Endless. My reflection stared back at me from the mirrored walls. Eyes bright, mouth tense, dress still. Perfect, but no longer armor. I should have been scared. I was something else entirely. The doors opened directly into the penthouse. No foyer, no announcement, just space. Glass walls. City lights spilling in like something alive. Dark furniture arranged with intention, not comfort. Art that looked expensive and violent in equal measure. Julian Cross stood near the windows, jacket already discarded, sleeves rolled back to reveal strong forearms, and a watch that probably cost more than my car. He didn't turn when I stepped out. I wondered if you'd lie to them or yourself first, he said. I closed the distance between us slowly. You don't waste time. I don't get many second chances, he replied. I take the first. He turned then. Up close, the calm was worse. No hunger in his eyes, no impatience, just interest, focused and sharp. You shouldn't be here, he said. I laughed quietly. You invited me. I warned you. That's not the same thing. No, he agreed. It's better. He poured a drink without asking if I wanted one. Set the glass on the counter between us. Whiskey? Dark. Strong. I didn't touch it. Your friends hate me, he said conversationally. They're afraid of you. As they should be. I lifted my chin. You enjoy that? I don't care. The honesty landed harder than any charm would have. Why me? I asked. You could have anyone. A faint smile tugged at his mouth, gone as quickly as it appeared. I don't want anyone. He stepped closer. I want the woman who looked at me like she already knew the cost, and came anyway. My breath caught. This isn't a game, I said. I don't play. You destroy people. Yes. The word hit the air between us, heavy and unapologetic. And you still came, he continued. So tell me, Harper, what does that say about you? I hated that he made me think. I hated that my body answered before my mouth did. It says I'm tired of pretending I don't want things I want. His gaze dropped to my lips. Just for a second. Then back to my eyes. Good, he said quietly. Because I don't tolerate hesitation. He reached out. Not to touch me, but to hook a finger under the strap of my purse and slide it off my shoulder. The intimacy of the gesture sent a shiver through me. He set it aside. Deliberate. Controlled. You walk out now, he said, and this ends. Clean, I won't follow. I won't interfere. I won't remind you of tonight. My heart pounded. And if I don't? Then you stop pretending you're different from me. I didn't answer. I stepped closer instead. The first kiss wasn't soft. It wasn't exploratory. It was immediate. Hard. Intentional. I rose onto my toes, without thinking. fingers fisting in his shirt, as his mouth covered mine like he'd been waiting all night to stop holding back. His hands went to my waist, not pulling, not claiming, anchoring me there like this was already decided. Heat rushed through me, fast and dizzying. He kissed like a man who knew exactly what he was doing, who didn't rush because he didn't need to. When he pulled back, it was just enough to breathe. "You're not scared enough?" he murmured against my mouth. I laughed softly, breathless. "I don't want to be." His thumb brushed my lower lip. Once. Then he kissed me again. This time, slower, deeper. His hand slid up my back, fingers splaying between my shoulder blades, holding me exactly where he wanted me. I felt it then. The edge. The danger. The absolute certainty that this wasn't a crush or curiosity. This was a mistake I was choosing with my eyes open. And God help me, I didn't want to stop. He broke the kiss abruptly. Not because he was done. Because he was in control. "If you stay," he said, voice low and steady, "they'll never forgive you. I know. You'll lose things." I already am. His eyes searched my face, like he was making sure I understood. "Say it," he demanded quietly. I swallowed. "I know exactly who you are." And I'm still here." Something dark and pleased flickered in his expression. "Good," he said again. "Then don't ask me to be gentle." He didn't touch me for a long moment after that. Just watched me. Let me feel the weight of my choice settling into my bones. Then he turned away, picked up his phone, and spoke into it in a language I didn't recognize. Short, sharp instructions. When he ended the call, he faced me again. "Your friends will know by morning," he said. "Not because I'll tell them, because people talk." A familiar knot twisted in my chest. "And you're okay with that?" He stepped into my space, close enough that my back brushed the counter. "I don't hide what's mine." The word sent a jolt straight through me. Mine. I should have pushed him away. Instead, I tipped my head back and let him kiss the side of my neck. Just once. A warning. My knees went weak. He felt it, smiled against my skin. "This is acceleration," he murmured. "Not a romance." I laughed quietly. "You think I came here for romance?" His eyes flashed. "That's what I wanted to hear. We didn't sleep together." Not yet. But he didn't let me leave untouched either. His hands learned the shape of me through fabric. His mouth left heat in places I'd feel tomorrow. He pressed me against the glass wall overlooking the city and whispered exactly how badly this would end for me if I didn't walk away. I told him to stop trying to scare me. He told me I hadn't seen anything yet. When I finally left, hours later, dizzy and aching and painfully awake to what I'd just done, the driver was already waiting. Julian didn't follow me to the elevator. He didn't need to. "I'll see you soon," he said calmly. Not a question. Not a promise. A statement of fact. I texted Morgan from the back seat. "I'm home." It was true. It just wasn't the place I'd left. By the time I crawled into bed, the city still humming beneath my window, my phone buzzed one last time. "Julian Cross, you crossed the line tonight. That was your choice." I stared at the screen, heart racing. Then typed back. "I know. And for the first time since we made the pact, I didn't regret it." I asked him what he did to her. He told me what he did to everyone. I didn't sleep. I lay in my bed with the city humming beneath my window, staring at the ceiling like it might crack open and give me an answer I hadn't already chosen. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him the way he'd looked at me in the penthouse. Calm, unbothered, already certain. Not seducing, not chasing, waiting. My phone stayed face down on the nightstand. I didn't want to see his name lighted up again. I didn't want to wonder what he'd say next, or how quickly I'd answer. I wanted space. Instead, I got truth. The first message came at 6:17 a.m. Julian Cross, have breakfast with me. No good morning. No apology. No explanation. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back. Me. Why? 3 dots appeared immediately. Because you won't like the answers if you ask them from a distance. My stomach tightened. I should have said no, I didn't. The restaurant sat above the river, glass walls catching the early sun, the kind of place where waiters moved like shadows, and no one asked questions because they already knew the answers. Julian was already there when I arrived. Of course he was. He stood near the windows, jacket on, phone in hand, speaking softly to someone who kept saying yes. When he finished the call, he didn't look surprised to see me. You came, he said. I had questions. He nodded once. You always did. We didn't sit immediately. He waited until I took in the room. 2 armed men positioned discreetly near the entrance, another near the bar, all dressed well enough to pass as businessmen but standing too still to be anything else. I met his gaze. This is part of it? I asked. This is all of it. I exhaled slowly and took the seat across from him. We ordered without menus. I didn't comment on that. Your friends think I ruined Celine, he said, not easing into it, not giving me time to brace. Is that what you think? I stiffened. I think she was different after you. She was different before me. That's not an answer. It's the only honest one. I leaned forward. She loved you. He didn't deny it. She loved the idea that she could survive me, he said calmly. She couldn't. My fingers curled around the edge of the table. You broke her. No, he said quietly. I refused to lie to her. That snapped something in me. Do you hear yourself? Yes. You talk like people are disposable. They are, he replied without hesitation. To survive in my world, you either understand that or you don't last. And Celine didn't last. She walked away, he corrected. She was alive when she did. I swallowed. She was hollow. His gaze sharpened. So would you have preferred I pretended to be someone else? I opened my mouth, closed it again. The waiter arrived with coffee and eggs arranged like art. Julian didn't touch his. You want to know what I am? He asked. Or what I do? Both. Careful, he said. You don't get to unknow either. I already crossed that line. I shot back. Something dark flickered across his expression. Yes, he agreed. You did. He stood, not abruptly, not aggressively, just decisively. Come with me. Where? To see it. I hesitated. See what? The part you're pretending doesn't exist. Every instinct screamed at me not to follow. I stood anyway. The building wasn't marked, but the street around it was wrong. Too quiet, too clean. The kind of place where sound got swallowed whole. Julian led me inside without touching me. Past a receptionist who didn't look up. Into an elevator that required a key I didn't have. Down, not up. The doors opened into a wide, windowless floor, lit in soft white. Polished concrete. Long tables. Men and women working in silence, phones ringing, screens flashing numbers and names I didn't recognize. Every head lifted when Julian stepped out. Every voice stopped. He didn't acknowledge them. He just kept walking. This is one of my operational hubs, he said. Financial, political, logistical. I struggled to keep my voice steady. You run all this? Yes. And the police? Some. The politicians? Enough. And the violence? He finally looked at me. That too. We stopped in front of a glass-walled room. Inside, a man sat alone at a table, hands bound, face bloodied but defiant. My heart slammed against my ribs. What is this? I whispered. Consequences. For what? Julian's voice was flat. He sold information that wasn't his to sell. I stared at the man, then back at Julian. You're going to kill him. Julian didn't blink. No. Relief hit me too fast. You're going to let him go? No, he repeated calmly. I'm going to let him live with it. The door opened. 2 men entered the room. Julian turned away before anything else happened. Don't look, he said. I didn't listen. I watched. I didn't scream. I didn't faint. But something inside me shifted permanently as I stood there and witnessed what fear looked like when it was methodical, when it was earned, when it wasn't chaos, but control. When it was over, Julian led me out without a word. Back into the elevator, back into light. My hands were shaking. In the car, I finally found my voice. You don't feel anything, I said. That's not true. Then what do you feel? He met my gaze. Responsibility. I laughed, sharp and disbelieving. That's what you call it? That's what it is. You could stop. He tilted his head. No, I couldn't. Why? Because if I don't do it, he said, someone worse will. The certainty in his voice made my chest ache. You're telling me this so I'll leave. Yes. And if I don't? Then you stop pretending you didn't understand. I need to pause here. Because this was the moment everything became real. Not the gala, not the penthouse, not even the kiss. This. Standing between a man who controlled lives and the part of myself that still believed I could choose without consequences. I knew what he was capable of. And instead of running, I felt something worse than fear. I felt chosen. Let's continue. The car stopped outside my building. Julian didn't move to get out. Neither did I. You showed me this to scare me, I said. Yes, it didn't work. His eyes darkened. That's a problem. For you? For anyone who thinks you're fragile. I swallowed. You think I'll break like Celine. I think you'll break something else, he said quietly. And that worries me, I scoffed. You're worried? Yes. About what? About how quickly you decided, he said, and how little you regret it. I reached for the door. Harper, he said. I paused. If you come back to me, he continued, there's no pretending this is a phase. Or curiosity. Or rebellion. I looked at him. Really looked. And if I don't? He smiled then. Slow. Dangerous. Then I'll let you walk away. I stepped out of the car. He didn't follow. I didn't go inside right away. I stood on the sidewalk, breathing in cold air, replaying everything I'd seen. Everything I'd felt. My phone buzzed. Morgan. Morgan. People are talking. Where are you? I stared at the screen, then typed back. Me. Busy. 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Then, with him? I didn't answer. I went upstairs. That night, I stood in my shower until the water ran cold, trying to scrub off the image of that room, that man, that power. It didn't work. Because the truth was, I wasn't shocked. I wasn't disgusted. I was awake. And somewhere across the city, Julian Cross knew it. Because when my phone lit up at midnight, I didn't hesitate this time. Julian Cross? You didn't leave. Me? No, a moment passed. Then? Good. I didn't go to his penthouse because I was confused. I went because I was done pretending I wasn't already lost. I went to Julian Cross's penthouse knowing exactly what I was doing. No excuses. No wine-blurred courage. No lie I could tell myself later to make it easier. I went because the image of him, standing in that glass room, calm while violence unfolded, had burned itself into my mind. Because the way he'd looked at me afterward hadn't been apologetic or ashamed. It had been curious. Like he was waiting to see what kind of woman I really was. The city blurred past the car windows, lights streaking like I was already moving too fast to stop. The driver didn't ask questions. The guards at the building didn't look at me twice. I belonged here now. Or at least, I was allowed. The elevator doors slid open silently. Julian was already waiting. He didn't say hello. Didn't ask why I'd come. He stood near the windows, jacket off, sleeves rolled, the city spread out behind him like an offering he'd already claimed. His shirt was unbuttoned at the collar again, like he didn't believe in unnecessary defenses. "You came back," he said. "I told you I might." "No," he corrected. "You told yourself." I walked farther into the room, heels clicking softly against stone floors that probably cost more than my apartment. "You showed me exactly who you were," I said. "You didn't expect me to disappear after that." Julian turned fully then, slow, measured. "You weren't supposed to want me more after that." "I didn't say I wanted you. You didn't have to." He took a step closer, then another. The air between us thickened, heavy, with the unspoken understanding that this was the moment everything snapped. "You should leave," he said quietly. I laughed. "You don't mean that." "I do," he said. "Because once this happens, there's no version of you that goes back to being untouched. I already crossed that line." "No," he replied. "You stood near it." He stopped a breath away from me. "This," he continued, voice low, dangerous, "is where you decide whether you belong in my world or spend the rest of your life pretending you were never invited." My pulse thundered. "You talk like this is a trap." "It is. And you still open the door." His mouth curved slightly. "I wanted to see if you'd walk through it." I closed the distance myself, put my hands on his chest, felt the steady beat of his heart beneath my palms, slow, controlled, unbothered. "I'm not afraid of you," I said. His jaw tightened. "You should be. Then make me." The silence that followed was electric. Then Julian Cross kissed me. It wasn't tentative. It wasn't gentle. It was a collision. His hands came up fast, one gripping my waist, the other cradling the back of my head as his mouth took mine with a force that stole the breath from my lungs. The kiss was deep, consuming, like he'd been holding himself back since the gala and was done pretending restraint mattered. I gasped into his mouth, fingers curling into his shirt as heat flooded my body too fast, too intense to think. This wasn't curiosity. This was hunger. He lifted me easily, setting me on the edge of the kitchen island like I weighed nothing, stepping between my knees without breaking the kiss. His body caged mine, solid and unyielding, every line of him reminding me exactly who I'd chosen. When he finally pulled back, our breaths tangled. "Say it," he demanded softly. "Say what?" "That you understand." "I understand," I said, voice shaking. "I know who you are." His thumb traced my jaw, slow and deliberate. "Say it again." "I know you're dangerous." And I still want this." Something dark and satisfied flickered through his eyes. He kissed down my throat, along the pulse there, teeth grazing skin just enough to make me shiver. His hand slid over my hips, up my sides, pushing my dress higher with unhurried intent. "You're choosing this," he murmured against my skin. "Not because I asked, not because you're curious, because you want to see how far it goes." "Yes. If you say stop, I stop." I met his gaze. "I won't." He nodded once, then his mouth was on me again, slower this time, more deliberate. He took his time undoing me, unzipping my dress, peeling it down my shoulders, letting it pool at my feet like shedding a skin I didn't need anymore. Every touch was precise, controlled, like he was cataloging my reactions, memorizing exactly how much pressure, how much heat, how much restraint made me arch into his hands. "You don't flinch?" he observed quietly. "I don't want to." "That makes you dangerous too." I pushed his shirt off his shoulders, fingers tracing the hard planes of his chest, the faint scars I hadn't noticed before. Proof, not decoration. He watched me do it. Let me. Then he stilled my hands. "You don't get to pretend this is about attraction," he said. "This is about defiance." I swallowed. "Maybe. And you're still here." "Yes." His mouth curved again, sharp this time. "Good." He lifted me again, carrying me toward the bedroom like it was inevitable, like the world had already decided this moment would happen, whether I wanted it to or not. The bedroom was dark, all shadow and glass, the city a distant glow beyond the windows. He set me down gently, then paused. This was the only hesitation he allowed. Last chance, he said. Once we cross this, your friends won't forgive you, they'll never trust you again. I reached for him, pulling him back to me. I didn't come here to be forgiven. That was all he needed. The kiss deepened, slower now, heavier with intent. His hand slid along my thighs, urging me back onto the bed as he followed, bracing his weight carefully, like he was acutely aware of his strength and refusing to misuse it. Clothes disappeared piece by piece. My skin burned everywhere he touched, every brush of his fingers sending awareness spiraling through me. His mouth followed his hands, leaving heat and promise in its wake. He didn't rush. That was what undid me. He took his time like he knew exactly how this would end, and was savoring every second before it did. You're shaking, he murmured. Not from fear. I know. When his body finally settled fully against mine, heavy and warm. My breath caught. The moment stretched, taut with anticipation, the weight of everything we hadn't said pressing down alongside him. His forehead rested against mine. Look at me, he said. I did. His eyes were dark, intent, unflinching. You don't get to regret this later, he warned. Not when it costs you something. I won't, I said honestly. I'm not pretending anymore. His hand slid into my hair, fingers tightening just enough to make me gasp. Good. The moment the physical act began, the world narrowed. And then, after Kara came back to awareness, wrapped in silk sheets, my body tucked tight against his chest, his arm heavy and possessive around my waist. My head rested against his shoulder, his hand idly tracing slow, absent patterns along my spine, like he was grounding both of us in the aftermath. The city outside was quieter now. Distant. Unimportant. You crossed the line tonight, Julian said softly, voice rougher than before. That was your choice. I shifted slightly, fitting closer against him without thinking. I know, he kissed the top of my head, a rare, intimate gesture that felt almost dangerous in its tenderness. You don't belong to my world yet, he continued, but you don't belong to theirs either. I closed my eyes. Where does that leave me? His arm tightened. With me? He said. For now? I should have been terrified by that answer. Instead, I felt something settle in my chest. Not safety, not comfort. Commitment. And as I lay there in the arms of the man my friends warned me about, I knew one thing with terrifying clarity. There was no going back. I didn't lose them all at once. I lost them the moment I chose not to apologize. The photo surfaced before noon. That was the first thing Julian was right about. I was still in his bed when my phone started vibrating like it wanted to jump off the nightstand. Message after message stacking so fast the screen barely had time to light up before the next one came in. Group chat. Muted last night. Exploding now. I didn't open it right away. Julian was still asleep beside me, sprawled on his back like the world didn't have permission to touch him without consent. One arm rested across my waist, heavy and proprietary, like even in sleep, he was aware of where I ended, and he began. I eased myself free carefully. He didn't stir. I wrapped the sheet around myself and crossed to the window, the city bright and unapologetic in the morning light. Somewhere down there, people were already talking. They always were. I unlocked my phone. The first message wasn't subtle. Ava, are you out of your mind? Then Morgan. Morgan, tell me that isn't you, I scrolled. A link. A grainy but unmistakable photo. Julian and me. Leaving the penthouse just after dawn, his hand at the small of my back. My head tipped toward him like I belonged there. Like I chose it. My stomach tightened, not with regret, but with impact. The moment I'd known was coming had arrived, and it didn't feel dramatic. It felt final. Julian stirred behind me. Phone, he said, voice rough with sleep. They have it, I replied quietly. He sat up, sheet sliding low over his hips, eyes already sharp. Which one? All of them. He leaned back against the headboard, unbothered. That was fast. You sound impressed. I'm realistic. I turned to face him. You knew this would blow up. Yes. And you didn't warn me. I did, he said calmly. You just didn't ask me to stop. That shouldn't have made sense. It did. I dressed quickly. Not because I was ashamed, but because staying any longer felt like avoiding something I'd already decided to face. Julian didn't try to keep me. He never did. He watched from the doorway as I pulled on my coat, his expression unreadable. They'll come for you first, he said. Not me. I know. You don't owe them explanations. I know. He studied me for a long moment like he was measuring something invisible. If you want me to handle it, no. He nodded once. Good. That was it. No reassurances. No soft landing. Just acknowledgement of what this was. Morgan didn't wait for me to get home. She was already outside my building when I arrived, arms crossed, posture tight, eyes burning with something between anger and grief. Ava stood a few feet back, jaw clenched, face pale. The rest of them weren't there. That felt deliberate. You could have denied it, Morgan said, the moment I stepped out of the car. I closed the door slowly. Why would I? Ava laughed sharply. Because it's Julian Cross. Yes, you broke the pact, Morgan said. Don't act like you don't know what this means. I know exactly what it means. Then say it, Ava demanded. Say you made a mistake. The word landed hard. Mistake. I looked at them. Really looked. At the fear under Ava's anger. At the hurt Morgan was trying to keep from showing. And I realized something with terrifying clarity. They didn't want the truth. They wanted repentance. I'm not going to say that, I replied. Silence snapped between us. Morgan's voice dropped. You don't even sound conflicted. I'm not. Ava shook her head. He ruined Celine. No, I said. He was honest with her. That's the same thing. Ava shot back. Men like him destroy women and call it truth. Then why did you all keep coming to events where he'd be? I asked quietly. Why did you keep watching him from across rooms if he was so dangerous? No one answered. Because they all knew. Morgan stepped closer. You're choosing him over us. I'm choosing myself. That's not the same thing. Maybe not to you. Her eyes filled with tears she didn't let fall. We were supposed to protect each other. I know, I said softly. But protection isn't the same as control. Ava scoffed. You sound just like him. That one hurt. I felt it, let it land. Then I straightened. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I just stopped pretending I didn't want what I wanted. Morgan's hands dropped to her sides. So that's it? She asked. One night and you throw everything away? It wasn't one night, I replied. And I didn't throw anything away. Ava laughed bitterly. You'll see. You always do. Maybe, I said. But it won't be because I didn't know the risk. Morgan took a step back. Don't call me when it goes bad, she said quietly. I nodded. I won't. That was the moment it broke. Not with shouting, not with drama, but with distance. They walked away together, and I didn't follow. The silence afterward was deafening. I went upstairs, locked my door, and leaned against it for a long moment, breathing through the ache in my chest. I wasn't numb. I wasn't relieved. I was clear. Julian texted an hour later. Julian, they came. Me, yes. A pause. Do you regret it? I stared at the screen, then typed back. Me, no. The response came almost immediately. Good. The city shifted after that. I noticed it in small ways. The way people looked at me longer. The way conversations stopped when I entered rooms I'd always belonged in. The way my name started carrying weight. It hadn't before. Julian's weight. And for the first time, I understood something crucial. Reputation wasn't just something you inherited. It was something you chose to stand inside. That night, I met Julian again. Not in his penthouse. In a private dining room overlooking the river, glass walls dark against the evening sky. His presence bent the room around him like gravity. He stood when I entered. Sit, he said, pulling out a chair for me. I did. You lost them, he said plainly. Yes. You don't sound surprised. I'm not. He studied my face. Most people try to bargain at this point. I already paid. A muscle in his jaw flexed. They'll make you a villain, he said, in their story. I can live with that. They won't forgive you. I didn't ask them to. Silence stretched between us, thick but not uncomfortable. Then Julian leaned forward slightly. You didn't ask me to fix this, he said. No, you didn't ask me to protect you. No. A corner of his mouth curved. Why? Because if I stay, I said, meeting his gaze, I need to know it's because I chose you, not because you shielded me from the consequences. He stared at me for a long moment, then nodded. That, he said quietly, was the right answer. Dinner arrived untouched. We didn't talk much after that. We didn't need to. When he walked me out, his hand settled at my back. Not gentle, not possessive, present. You understand something now? He said as the car pulled up. What? That there's no version of this where you're innocent. I smiled faintly. I stopped needing to be. His gaze darkened. That makes you dangerous. Back in my apartment, I stood by the window again, watching the city glow like it always had. Except it wasn't the same anymore. Neither was I. I checked my phone one last time. The group chat was silent now. Muted. Maybe permanently. I set the phone down and didn't pick it back up. Because the truth was simple, even if it wasn't easy. I didn't lose my friends because of Julian Cross. I lost them because I chose not to lie about wanting him. And I wasn't sorry. This was the moment everyone thought I'd finally leave. Instead, I stayed. I knew something was wrong the moment Julian told the driver to stop the car. Not slowed, not adjusted. Stopped. The city around us was loud. Sirens somewhere far off, music leaking out of a bar on the corner. But inside the car, everything went silent. The driver's hands tightened on the wheel. The man in the passenger seat shifted, one hand already disappearing beneath his jacket. Julian didn't move. He didn't swear. He didn't reach for a weapon. He just said, calmly, "Stay exactly where you are." My heart slammed into my ribs. What? Harper! His voice cut through me. Low. Absolute. Do not move. The words landed heavy. Final. And then the first shot shattered the rear window. Glass exploded inward. The sound was deafening. Violent. Wrong. I screamed without meaning to as Julian moved. Fast. Brutal. Decisive. His arm wrapped around my shoulders, dragging me down as the second shot hit metal, sparks flying. Down! He snapped. The car lurched forward. Tires screamed against asphalt. The driver swerved hard, taking a side street at speed as another shot rang out. Then another. I was on the floor of the back seat, Julian over me, his body a shield without hesitation or question. His hand pressed the back of my head down, his other already holding a gun I hadn't seen him draw. His heartbeat was steady. Mine was not. Breathe, he ordered near my ear. You stop breathing, you make mistakes. I sucked. In air, chest burning, fingers digging into his jacket as the car fishtailed and then sped up again. Who is it? I shouted. Julian didn't answer. which told me everything. We didn't stop until we hit the brownstone. Not his penthouse. Not anything public. A fortified building I'd never seen before, doors already opening as we screeched to a halt. Armed men appeared from nowhere, moving with terrifying efficiency. Julian pulled me out of the car and half-carried me inside. I saw blood. Not his. One of the men went down behind us, clutching his shoulder. Another cursed into a radio. The doors slammed shut, locks engaging with heavy mechanical finality, and suddenly we were inside. Safe. For now. Julian turned to me immediately, hands gripping my arms, eyes scanning my face, my body. "Are you hit?" "No," I gasped. "Are you?" "No." "Then what?" He cut me off with a sharp look. "You don't ask questions yet?" I nodded, throat tight. He turned away and started giving orders. Short. Brutal. Efficient. "Lock it down. Find the shooter. I want names in 10 minutes. No mistakes." The men moved like extensions of his will. I stood there shaking, my coat half slipped off my shoulders, heart still trying to escape my chest. This wasn't rumor. This wasn't reputation. This was Julian Cross's world, bloody, precise, merciless, and I was standing in the middle of it. When he finally turned back to me, his face was calm again. Too calm. "This is your out," he said. The words landed harder than the gunshots. "What?" "You saw it," he continued evenly. "You felt it. This is real. This doesn't stop. If you leave now, I won't follow." I stared at him, disbelief cutting through the adrenaline. "You're giving me an exit?" "Yes." "After that?" "Yes." I laughed. Sharp, hysterical. "You think that scared me away?" His jaw tightened. "It should." I stepped closer. "I watched you shield me without thinking. I watched you take control when everything went to hell. You think I didn't notice? Harper! You think I didn't see what you are?" His eyes burned into mine. "Say it. You're violent," I said. "You're ruthless. You don't pretend otherwise. And I'm still here." Something dark flickered across his face. He exhaled slowly. "This doesn't make you brave," he said. "It makes you reckless. Then stop trying to scare me." His hand came up, gripping my jaw. Not hard, but firm enough that my breath caught. "You think I'm scaring you?" he asked quietly. "I'm trying to save you." "From what?" "From loving someone like me," I swallowed. "Too late." He released me abruptly and turned away, pacing once, twice, like an animal barely holding back. "This is the last time," he said. "The last time I tell you what it costs." "I already paid." I shot back. "I lost my friends. I lost my clean life. I lost the version of myself who believed in easy choices." He stopped, slowly turned. "And you still want this?" "Yes." The silence stretched. Then Julian crossed the room. In 3 long strides, crowding me back against the wall. His mouth crashed into mine. Hard, hungry, nothing careful left. I gasped as his hands pinned my wrists above my head, his body pressed flush to mine. All heat and power and barely restrained violence. "You don't get to change your mind later," he growled against my lips. "You don't get to wake up and decide this was a mistake." "I won't," I breathed. He kissed me again, deeper, rougher, like he was claiming something already his. This is the moment I should have walked away. I didn't. "So before I tell you what happened next, would you have stayed with the man your friends called a monster if leaving meant lying to yourself? Because that's what this was. Not fear. Not confusion. Choice. Julian broke the kiss and dragged me with him down a hallway, into a bedroom darker than his penthouse, all stone and shadow and heavy doors. He shoved the door closed behind us and turned, eyes blazing. "Say it again," he demanded. "Say you know who I am." "I know exactly who you are," I said, voice shaking but steady. "And I'm still here." That was all it took. He stripped his jacket off and threw it aside, blood spattered on the cuff from someone else's injury. My eyes flicked to it. "You don't flinch," he noted. "I don't care." He stepped closer. "You should." "Then make me." He grabbed my coat and shoved it off my shoulders, hands rough now, urgency bleeding through his control. My back hit the wall again as his mouth found my throat, his teeth grazing skin, breath hot and uneven. "Still want this?" he asked, voice low and dangerous. "Yes." He didn't slow down. His hand slid under my dress, gripping my thighs, lifting me effortlessly as I wrapped my legs around his waist. The movement knocked the air from my lungs. He carried me to the bed and laid me down with deliberate care that didn't match the hunger in his eyes. "You're shaking," he said. "Not from fear." "I know." Clothes disappeared fast now. Mine first, then his. Hands everywhere, mouths everywhere, heat and friction and urgency colliding. He kissed me like he was burning time he didn't have. "You're choosing this," he repeated, like a vow. "You're choosing me." "Yes," I gasped. "Julian." His name on my lips did something to him. He stilled, forehead pressing to mine, breath ragged. "Don't say it unless you mean it." "I mean it." His hands tightened in my hair, his mouth crashing back down on mine, as his body finally aligned with mine, the moment tipping over the edge. I came back to myself, curled against his bare chest, his arm locked around my middle like an anchor. The room was quiet now, distant voices muffled beyond the walls. His hand moved slowly up and down my spine, grounding, protective in a way that felt almost ironic, given everything else. "You stayed," he said quietly. I nodded against him. "I warned you." A rough sound left his throat. Half laugh, half disbelief. "Your problem," he murmured. I smiled faintly. "So are you." His arm tightened. "You don't belong to my world," he said. I tilted my head up to look at him. "Then stop acting like I already do." He held my gaze for a long moment. Then, softly, "Too late." Outside the room, the war continued. Inside it, I made my choice permanent. And no matter what happened next, I wasn't leaving. He didn't ask if I was ready. He decided I was. Julian didn't warn me. That should have been my first clue. No careful lead-in, no conversation about optics or consequences. No gentle suggestion that maybe this was a bad idea. He just told me what was happening. "Get dressed," he said, calm and unyielding. "You're coming with me." I sat up in the bed, sheet slipping down my waist, the brownstone still quiet except for distant movement somewhere below. Men. Phones, the machinery of his world grinding forward without pause. "Where?" I asked. "My house." That landed differently. Not the penthouse. Not a safe location, not a temporary retreat. His house. The place where people like me were not supposed to exist. I swung my legs over the side of the bed. "You're serious." "Yes." "You're not even pretending this is a choice." Julian stepped closer, adjusting his cufflinks with infuriating calm. He looked immaculate again. Dark suit, crisp shirt, no visible trace of the violence from hours earlier. "I already gave you your choice," he said. "You made it." My pulse ticked faster. "This is public. Yes. Your people will see me. They already do. And if they don't approve," his mouth curved, sharp and humorless, "they don't get a vote." The car ride was silent. Not tense, not awkward. Heavy. The city blurred past the windows, Neighborhoods shifting from polished to protected to outright controlled. I'd lived here my entire life and still hadn't realized how much of it answered to men like Julian Cross. We crossed a bridge I didn't recognize, passed through gates that opened without hesitation. When the car finally stopped, I stared. The house wasn't flashy. That was the terrifying part. Stone. Iron. Old money and older violence baked into every line. Security everywhere, but discreet. Cameras disguised as architectural flourishes. Men positioned like furniture. This wasn't somewhere you visited. This was somewhere you were summoned. Inside, the air smelled like wood polish and something faintly metallic. Voices echoed from deeper within, low, masculine, controlled. Julian took my coat without asking and handed it to someone who vanished immediately. "You're not nervous," he observed. "I am," I admitted. "I'm just not running." "That's worse," he said quietly. We entered the main room together. Conversation stopped. Not dramatically, not with gasps, just stopped. Men turned. Women paused mid-sentence. Glasses froze halfway to lips. Every pair of eyes locked onto Julian first, then slid to me, and stayed there. I felt it like a physical weight. This wasn't curiosity. It was assessment. Julian didn't slow. He didn't hesitate. He kept his hand at the small of my back, steady, possessive, unmistakable, as he guided me forward into the heart of the room. "This is Harper," he said. Just that. No last name, no explanation. Mine. Someone laughed. Low. Disbelieving. "Is this a joke?" a woman asked, her smile sharp enough to cut. Julian stopped. Turned. The room held its breath. "This is not a joke," he said evenly. The woman's smile faltered. "You're bringing an outsider in here. After everything." "I'm bringing my choice," he interrupted. "Watch your language." Silence snapped back into place. I stood there, spine straight, heart pounding, fully aware that this was the moment where I either shrank or owned it. I did neither. I met their stares. An older man stepped forward, white hair, heavy rings, the kind of presence that didn't need volume. "You understand what this means for you," he said, not unkindly. "I do," I replied. His gaze sharpened. "And you accept it?" "Yes." He looked at Julian. "You're sure?" Julian didn't even glance at him. "Yes." That was it. No debate. No approval needed. Dinner was served. I didn't eat much. I didn't have to. Every movement I made was being cataloged anyway. How I held my fork, how I sat, whether I leaned into Julian or pulled away. I leaned in. I let his thigh press against mine. Let his hand rest openly on my knee. I didn't hide. And slowly the room adjusted. Conversation resumed, cautious at first, then more fluid, like the world correcting itself around a new truth. Halfway through the meal, someone finally asked the question. "What about the girls?" a man across the table said, eyes flicking to me. "The ones who swore they'd never cross us." Julian's hand stilled on my knee. "She's not theirs," he said. My breath caught. "She's mine." The words dropped into the room like a blade. No one argued. No one dared. Later, when the room loosened with alcohol and inevitability, Julian stood and raised his glass. The noise faded immediately. "I don't make speeches," he said. "So listen carefully." Every eye locked on him. This woman knew exactly who I was before she came into my bed. She didn't ask me to change. She didn't ask me to soften. She chose me anyway. His hand tightened on mine. "If anyone here mistakes that for weakness," he continued calmly, "they'll answer to me." He lifted his glass. To clarity. The toast was echoed around the room. I swallowed hard. When we finally left, the night air felt sharp and electric against my skin. I exhaled for what felt like the first time all evening. "You didn't warn me," I said quietly as we walked toward the car. Julian glanced at me. "You didn't ask." I could have said no. "You wouldn't have." I stopped walking. He turned back to face me. "You think I didn't see it?" he said. "The way you stood in that room. The way you didn't apologize for existing." I lifted my chin. "You think I did that for you?" "No," he said softly. "You did it for yourself." In the car, my phone buzzed. Morgan. One message. Morgan. I heard. That was it. No accusation. No pleading. Just finality. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then locked my phone and set it aside. Julian watched me closely. "You don't want to answer? There's nothing left to say." He nodded once. That's usually how it ends. Back at the penthouse, the city stretched. Endlessly below us, lights glittering like a promise that meant nothing. Julian poured a drink and handed it to me. "Still here?" he asked. I took a sip. "Still." He studied me, expression unreadable. "You understand there's no halfway now." "I understand. You don't get to be anonymous." "I don't want to be." A corner of his mouth curved. "Good." He crossed the room and stopped in front of me, fingers tilting my chin up until I had no choice but to meet his eyes. "You were brave tonight," he said. "I wasn't trying to be." "That's why it counts," I laughed softly. "You're not exactly reassuring." "I'm not here to reassure you." He kissed me then, not hard, not urgent, slow, deliberate. A promise, not a plea. Later, as I lay beside him, his arm heavy around my waist, I stared out at the city and felt the full weight of what I'd done settle into my bones. I had been claimed. Not because I was owned, but because I stood where I chose to stand and didn't move. And for the first time since the pact was made, I didn't feel like the villain in anyone else's story. I felt like the author of my own. I didn't survive him, I chose him. And the world rearranged itself accordingly. The city didn't change because I chose Julian Cross. That was the first thing I learned. The lights still burned. The traffic still snarled. People still hurried through their lives like nothing fundamental had shifted. Only my position inside it had. The morning after the dinner at his house, I woke alone in the penthouse. Not abandoned, not dismissed. Alone because Julian was already working. The sheets were cool on his side, the faint scent of him still clinging to the pillow beside me. I lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the wave of regret everyone promised would come. It didn't. What came instead was clarity. I knew where I was. I knew who I was with. I knew what it cost. And none of it felt like a mistake. I dressed slowly, deliberately. Not in a hurry to prove anything. Not scrambling to reclaim something I'd lost. The mirror reflected a woman who looked the same at first glance, but held herself differently. Shoulders back. Eyes steady. No apology in the set of her mouth. I wasn't pretending anymore. That changed everything. Julian found me in the kitchen, already dressed, already lethal in his calm. He was reading something on his tablet, coffee untouched beside him. "You sleep?" he asked without looking up. "Yes." "You didn't leave." I smiled faintly. "You sound surprised." "I'm not," he said. "I'm confirming." He finally looked at me then, gaze sharp, assessing. Not possessive, not doubtful, present. "Come here," he said. I crossed the room without hesitation. He didn't pull me into him, didn't kiss me. He just rested his hand at my waist, grounding, solid. You're quiet, he observed. I'm thinking. Dangerous habit. For everyone else, maybe. A corner of his mouth curved. The phone rang mid-sentence. Julian answered without breaking eye. Contact with me. Yes? A pause. No. Another pause. His jaw tightened slightly. Tell them that's not how this works. He ended the call and set the tablet aside. Your name came up, he said calmly. I didn't flinch. I assumed it would. They're testing boundaries. And they won't again. That should have scared me. It didn't. What does that mean for me? I asked. It means, he said, voice even, that you don't speak unless you want to. You don't explain unless you choose to. And you don't answer to anyone but yourself. I searched his face. That's not protection. No, he agreed. It's acknowledgement. The fallout came in waves, some subtle, some sharp. An invitation quietly withdrawn. A meeting rescheduled indefinitely. A friend of a friend suddenly blocking my number. And then the message I'd been expecting. Morgan. Not a call. A single text. Morgan. I hope he's worth it. I stared at the words for a long time. Julian watched me from across the room, saying nothing. I typed slowly. Me. He wasn't the point. I didn't wait for a reply. There wasn't one. We went out that night. Not hidden, not discreet. Public. A private club with velvet ropes and men who nodded when Julian arrived and didn't look twice when he walked in with me at his side. I felt the shift immediately, the way people adjusted their proximity, their tone, their posture. I wasn't invisible, I wasn't ornamental, I was placed. And for the first time, I understood what power adjacency really meant. Not that it shielded you, that it defined you. A woman approached us at the bar. Beautiful, controlled, dangerous in a way that didn't need to announce itself. Julian, she said coolly, you move fast. I move decisively, he replied. Her gaze slid to me. Sharp, measuring. So this is her. I met her eyes and didn't smile. Yes, I said. She laughed softly, bold. Julian's hand tightened at my back. She doesn't need your approval, he said calmly. I wasn't offering it. They stared at each other for a beat too long. Then the woman stepped back. Good luck, she said to me. You'll need it. I watched her walk away. Do I? I asked. Julian's voice was low. No. But they'll think you do. Later, on the balcony, the city stretched endlessly beneath us. Julian stood beside me, silent, his presence heavy in a way that felt grounding rather than oppressive. You didn't flinch tonight, he said. I'm done flinching. You understand what comes next. Yes. You'll be blamed for things you didn't do. I already am. You'll be watched. I already was. He studied me. You won't be forgiven. I shrugged. I didn't ask to be. Something unreadable crossed his face. You're not like the others, he said finally. I know. The real test came 3 days later. A meeting. Unscheduled. Unavoidable. Julian took me with him without discussion. The room was smaller. Older. Heavier with history. Men who'd built their empires on blood and silence sat around the table, eyes calculating. I felt them weighing me. One of them finally spoke. You're a liability. Julian didn't respond. The man looked directly at me. You understand what you've stepped into? Yes, I said. And you think you belong here? I didn't hesitate. I think, I replied, that I'm already here. Whether you approve or not. The room went still. Julian's hand found mine under the table. Not reassurance. Recognition. Afterward, in the car, Julian was quiet. You shouldn't have answered, he said finally. I know. Then why did you? Because if I don't speak now, I said, they'll never stop trying to speak for me. He considered that, then nodded. That was the right call. That night, when we finally returned to the penthouse, the city felt distant again. I stood at the window, watching the lights. I didn't plan this, I said quietly. Julian came up behind me, close but not touching. No one ever does. I didn't plan to lose them. I know, I turned to face him. And I didn't plan to choose you. He met my gaze evenly. You still did. Yes? And I'd do it again. That was the moment something shifted between us. Not softened, settled. He didn't claim forever. He didn't promise safety or peace or redemption. He just wrapped his arm around me and pulled me close, my back against his chest, his breath warm against my hair. This is what staying looks like, he said. No illusions. I don't want them. Good. The last message came a week later. From Ava. Ava, I don't recognize you anymore. I read it once, then deleted it, not because it didn't hurt, but because it didn't change anything. Julian found me afterward, phone gone, eyes clear. You ready? He asked. For what? For what comes next. I looked out at the city, his city now, whether anyone liked it or not, and felt something settle deep in my bones. Yes, I said. He nodded once. That's my girl. I didn't fall slowly. I fell fast, hard, and without apology. I chose the man my friends warned me about. I chose chaos over comfort. Truth over loyalty. Desire over safety. And standing there, wrapped in the arms of a man who ruled through fear and precision and absolute clarity, I understood something finally. I wasn't ruined. I was rewritten. Thank you for listening to my story. This wasn't a love that unfolded slowly. It burned fast, cost friendships, and demanded that I own every consequence of my choice. I didn't fall by accident. I didn't ask for forgiveness. I chose him, fully aware of the damage. If my story stayed with you, tell me the exact moment you realized I wasn't turning back. Book 2 is next. My friend Megan also made a pact. She broke it for him, and that betrayal cuts even deeper. Choose yourself, your happiness. Things and people can change. The wrong man might be just the one you need. Until next time, choose honestly. Like, comment, and subscribe. This tells YouTube that you want more of my stories, and it helps others like you find my stories. Let's grow together.